Greetings, guys. It's Fancy, and I am the award-winning publisher and editor-in-chief for Swagger Magazine. And today we are having another CEO chatter segment. For those who may be unfamiliar with the segment, this is my business segment where as I interview other business owners and we discuss different strategies and, other business stuff, news. So today I have a guest. It's going to be Miss Mary Lee Vance. And Mary, I see you on. I just want to take one quick minute before I forget. Hey, Kim, and show you all the new magazines because they are in, and you can purchase those from the website at swagger.net. We also have our new travel books in, the mini magazines. These are going to Dallas and some are going to Nashville. So just to let you all know, we do have products because oftentimes people think we just post online or the magazine is solely online. No, we have print issues. So you can support us by purchasing these issues by visiting the magazine website at swagher. That's SWAGHER.net. All right. So I saw that Mary has sent me a request. Hey, y'all. Hey. That have came in. Let me go ahead on and bring her in now. Hey, Shanice. All right. Okay. I sent the request.
Hello.
Greetings. How are you doing?
Good. Let me try to fix my camera here so
Okay.
I don't get cut off here. How are you, Fancy? Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. Look, I don't know if you realize or not, but I have a podcast as well. So when I saw your title, I was like, girl, I need these tips. So first off, let's start with you telling everyone who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Mary Lee Vance. I am an author, speaker, entrepreneur. I am a podcast creator as well, the fastest growing faith-based podcast, Virtue with Vision, where you're reminded that you deserve God's best because you are God's best. And I'm also a podcast cultivator strategist, where I help people build their podcast from the ground up and help secure high-profile guests on their show as well.
Wow. And so how long have you been podcasting?
I have been podcasting since 2019. I actually got started in radio. I was a radio talk show host on a stellar award-winning radio station here in Georgia. And that is where I really got my groundwork in building a podcast and knowing what goes into it. It's kind of like radio, but it's your own flavor. It's your own mix. It's what you put into it. So after I gathered all of the tools that I learned in radio, then I just took it and I applied it to my podcast, and it's been zooming ever since.
Wow. And so actually, your story is different than what I was expecting because I looked at your website and I saw you wrote a book, and I was thinking that maybe that's what led you into podcasting. So you were already in radio. Were you in radio also when you wrote your book as well?
Actually, my book is how everything happened, to be honest. I wrote the book. God gave me the vision back in 2017. I wrote the book, and after I wrote the book, they reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to be a talk show host on our radio station? I was like, really? Do you guys me? So it kind of just rolled from there. My book, God gave me that vision a long time ago to help women in their dating lives, because if you were anything like me, ratchet, trying to find out, like, who's this guy I'm supposed to marry? I want to be a married woman and I'm dating, and then it's all of these stop signs and I'm like, what's going on? And God just really helped me give a realistic tone to how it is when you actually date with purpose, when you date with him included in your date life, and let him know that you can be a hot mess and he still loves you too, because I know that I am one of them, proudly.
So that's really interesting. Your book led to you being on the radio, and then that led to you podcasting. So
Yes.
What would you say that you love most about podcasting?
What I love most about podcasting is talking to strangers every week. And I say that because I have a guesting podcast. The first year that I started podcasting, I didn't do that too much or too often. But my second year going into podcasting, I really liked having guests. And I've talked to guests all over the United States, including internationally. And I like the fact that it's authentic. I don't prep them. We don't have conversations before the actual show. It's kind of, I just give you the format and I'm just like, we're just going with the Holy Spirit and we're going to just do this thing and boom, it just turns into a beautiful thing. And I absolutely love conversing with strangers. That's my thing. We'll be best friends after this, Fancy. Best friends.
Wow. So, yeah, I take it you are not an introvert then.
I am actually.
Really?
I'm actually both. I need to have my time, but when I have my time, then I can go out and explore and be like a great sociable person.
Okay, so you might be an ambivert then.
Yes.
So you said you have 3 ways to take your podcast to the next level in 2021. I want to get into that. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I went and I do my research, and I'm not a podcaster that's just like, okay, so how do we do this podcasting? Let's just put it all together. I was like a lot of people who got started and they were overwhelmed and they're like, how do I do this? What equipment's best? What hosting website? Is it free? Like paid? What I should do? Should this be a production? Should this just be audio? It was a whole thing for me because I'm a person that doesn't just think of like just do the single thing. I look at the bigger picture and I'm like, how do we put the bigger picture all together at once? So I looked on amplifymedia.com and their site says that there's over 540,000 podcasts out there, which is, I would say that there's a lot more, but only 50% of them made it past the 7th episode. That means 50% of people like stop believing in themselves, they pod fade, and they just want to simply give up because they find out that going into podcasting, there's a lot more than just talking behind a mic. So when I started to think about that, I was just like, why is it that we have so many gurus like start your podcast in 30 days? 30 days and boom, you're out there, but it doesn't last past that because they don't have the proper structure. So my first point of how to take your podcast to the next level is make sure that you have a podcast structure. Your structure is important in order to have a basis for your podcast, in order for that to be the basis on how you grow. And a lot of people that just go and say, well, I'm going to do and talk about this episode, I'm going to talk about that episode, and not have a complete structure, end up giving up because they run out of content. And you should never run out of content, even if you have to recycle it. So my first thing with your foundation for your podcast is you need to make sure you understand what length, what is your cadence? What are the people that are listening to you going to know you by? So are you a person that has a 15-minute show, a 30-minute show, an hour show? Like, is it around the same time? You need to make sure that you have that same structure every single time so your audience knows what to expect from you every single week, every 2 weeks, or how often you do your show. Also, consistency. Man, that is a huge thing for me. If you are not a person that does your podcast live like I do, find a day. You need to have a day that you set aside that you are like, okay, these are the days that I'm going to bust out 4 to 5 podcasts, because we know that there's 4. If you're doing once a week, hey, 4 podcasts in one day, and make sure you schedule them out so you don't have that stress on you. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm so stressed out. I don't know how to do this or what to do. How am I going to get this content out? But if you just choose one day, just one little day, one night out of the week, and just go at it, then you will be able to have those podcasts spaced out, already done, and then you don't have to worry about running out of content. I also teach my students that you need to make sure that you have an intro that you're remembered by, and I'll get back into that. But I do want to let you guys know that if you don't have a foundation for your podcast, it's going to crumble, because you need to have that in order to do anything. Exactly, it's like a relationship. You want to be in a relationship with someone. You don't want a relationship built off of mistrust. You don't want a relationship built off of lies. You want a solid foundation built with that person from the ground up. And that's how your podcast should be as well.
And so with the foundation, that would be the things like, as you kind of mentioned, with the consistency. So having a regular schedule. What else would you say? The actual formatting. Like, I know with our podcast, we do news like for the first 20 minutes, and we do an interview for the remaining 40 minutes. It's always an hour long. So those are the type of things that you're referring to when you're talking about the foundation, right? The order of things. Okay, I just wanted to make certain for those who may not, who may be thinking of starting a podcast but not already there and in it and in the thick of it and understanding what all of that is. And then you said consistency was number 2.
Absolutely.
Number 3, I'm sorry, it just escaped me just that fast.
Your intro. Yes, that is the centermost part of your podcast. What is the first thing that people hear? It's your first appearance. It's your first impression on people. So your intro is something that is so important. People need to hear your intro in order to be able to be engaged with you, to know if they like you, to know if they want to do this thing again. It's like a date. We want to know. We put on this first impression and we want to be authentically ourselves, but we want to make sure that we have a good, long-lasting impression to our audience. So I love to give this example of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Everybody knows the Fresh Prince. Everybody. It's been 20 years, and we know it from the beginning to the end. We wrap the whole thing, and it's a thing, and it's embedded in our head. But how did it get embedded in our head? We heard it every single time the show came on. Every single time. It didn't skip or say, hey, we're not going to play the intro this time. No, it was something that was always in the show. So I call my intro that I teach people in Pods and Excellence the Fresh Prince method. You need to have an intro that is similar to a jingle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a jingle, but give the crowd something they can remember you by. How are you impacting them? If the intro is the only thing that they hear, how are you impacting them? How are you leaving a lasting impression? How are you saying, this is the podcast that I need to listen to? This is the podcast I need to be in tune to. This is the show that I want to listen to, because they tell me that I'm smart, or they tell me that I'm empowered, or they say that they're encouraging me in the intro alone. So I wonder what the show is going to bring. That is something that you want to make sure that you have in your intro, no matter what. And I teach that you have to have a first impression that's a lasting impression to your audience.
I love that. And that definitely makes sense. Now you have me rethinking our intro as well. We have one when we are actually we don't have one as we're going live, but we have it for the recorded segments, But now I'm just thinking, so we do ours we stream live on StreamYard initially. So do you know if there's a way to add an intro there?
Absolutely, there's a way that you can add an intro there. When you go into the studio at StreamYard, and I don't use StreamYard anymore, I've used a plethora of products to see what fits my show or what fits other shows or how everyone does their show. But in StreamYard, there's a thing called video. Like if you go into the studio, you can upload your intro video there. So when your show starts, I have a countdown clock, and then I also have my intro. So I combined those two together, uploaded it as a video, and then boom, it's there. So I play that in the beginning. I don't necessarily use StreamYard's countdowns because a lot of people use them. I like to be different, so I just created my own. So I like to make sure I have the video there once it plays, and then I make sure I have my whole setup as well. So any backgrounds or anything that's that represents my brand, that is what I have in StreamYard to set up, and I make sure that I go over it first. So it's like when people see it, they're not like, whoa, what's going on there? They're more like, oh, wow, this is professional. This is something.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm so glad you shared that with me because,
Absolutely.
initially we were so excited about the intro, and then we kind of like began changing some things, and I guess lost the excitement or stopped paying as much attention to it. And now you have me thinking about going back, revisiting, and just making certain that it's actually set up properly, and that
Yeah.
people are, we're conveying the message that we like to convey initially in the beginning. Because I do like the fact that you said this, like, your first impression of a person.
It
So,
is.
do you have anything else, any other projects that you're working on, or anything like that you care to share with us?
Yes. I actually wanted to add another tidbit. You also want to make sure you do collaborations like what you and I are doing, Fancy. A lot of people get so scared to ask their favorite celebrity or their favorite person that they like to go to be on their show. And I am just saying, why not ask? Like, the worst they can say is no.
Right.
And there's a way that you do ask. Don't just be like, hey, can you be on my podcast? Hi, my name is Mary. Let's be on my podcast. No, there's an actual way to ask someone that you admire or that you inspire to be on your show. Can you raise that magazine up that you guys had? That Oh, yes, I've had
Yes.
Nicole Walters on my podcast. It's simply just asking, knowing what to ask and how to ask it, and it can happen. It can happen for anybody. And I also teach that as well in Positive Excellence on how to just go for the things that you want do it scared, do it fearful, do it without thinking that you have the whereabouts or the confidence to do it. Just do it. There's nothing like putting your feet out there and trying something that may or may not work and be excited the fact that it does work in your favor.
Right.
So I teach people exactly how to ask people how to be on their show. This week I'm having, if anyone's heard of Maverick City or Elevation Worship, I'm having Naomi Rain on my show. It's simply because I decided to know how to ask for the things that I want, and you can do that too.
I like that as well. And I do think, I was just thinking about the email that you sent, how you and I connected, and you seemed so excited.
Yep.
And it was just seemed interesting. I love the fact that you included a topic, so I knew what we could talk about. It wasn't vague, and it was like
Yep.
straight to the point. So
Yep.
I totally agree with that. There's a certain way that you ask for things that can kind of, work more in your favor. So yes, I think that's a great tip as well. So,
Yep.
is there anything else, that we didn't touch on that you like to include or anything?
I think we've covered it. I think we've covered that you need to have a podcast structure. It's so important to collaborate with the people that you want to have and see on your podcast, and also your intro. Those are the three most key things to your podcast success.
All right. And consistency. So,
Consistency, yes. You want to have it.
well, thank you so much, Mary, for coming on and talking to me. And guys, if you didn't miss any part of this, we're going to have the replay on the website as well as on YouTube. So you can definitely go through and watch and listen to all the tips that Mary shared from the beginning and get to know her and a little bit more about what she does as well. And so I
Absolutely.
thank you for coming on and joining us, and, peace and blessings, and you have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Fancy.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. So that was Mary Lee Vance. And again, you are, oh, I should have asked her. Mary, if you're still on, can you drop your website in the comments? But let me see if I can get back up here. No. That is for those who missed her name. It's Mary L. Vance. Just if you like to follow her or check her out, or reach out to her about your own podcast. Like Anya and I have been podcasting for almost 2 years now, and I think those were some really great tips that she shared with us. And again, as she said, Nicole Walters is our cover story. So you all can grab your print copy of the magazine on the website, or you can even read digitally on the website by visiting the shop page and going to the magazine issue. And from there, you can be taken to the digital issue so you can read right online on your devices. So you don't have to worry about shipping or waiting, and those are a little bit cheaper too. But we do appreciate all of the support. Also, guys, one thing I keep forgetting to mention is we do have our Bosses Link Up event that is coming up June 24th, 6 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be doing this virtually, but it is going to be a networking event hosted by Candy Matthews. You all may know her as Networking with Queens. We've partnered with Lakeisha M. Mosley of the LM Experience, and sorry. I got a text message. And so we're going to have a good time. We're going to be playing some games. We have some great prizes. We've had some great people that I've seen sign up and register, and they're from all over the states. So that means that you're not just going to be connected with people in just one central location. You're going to be connected with people all over. We're going to have up to 75 guests with this first one. So we're hoping that you all have your tickets. If you haven't already gotten them, they are on Eventbrite. It is Bosses Link Up on Eventbrite, presented by Swagger Magazine. So you all can check that out as well. So I think that is everything. Tune in to Theories and Thoughts tonight. Our guest is, and I could be saying this incorrectly, Lorelco Mozak, and he's an artist and a dad. We're going to be talking about fatherhood or Black fatherhood. So you all can join us on Facebook at 7 p.m. Central Time there, and that's where we'll be at. So thank you all again for tuning in, and peace and blessings. Happy Tuesday.